Hello viewers, welcome to Ines Commerce Academy. I am Narsini Srinivas, Faculty of Commerce. Today I am going to explain important short answers and essay type questions of Environment Science subject for first semester students under unit number 1. Okay friends, before going to start my topic, I am requesting you kindly subscribe my channel, press on bell button and give some likes. It will makes me a lot of encouragement to do further videos. Come to the point, short answer questions. First one, what are the biotic components of an ecosystem? The biotic components of an ecosystem are the living organisms that interact with each other and their environment. These components can be classified into different categories based on their roles within the ecosystem. The main biotic components includes producers, autotrophs, example plants, algae, and certain bacteria. Consumers, heterotrophs, example deer, rabbit, insects that feed on plants. Next, secondary consumers, carnivores, example owls, snakes, birds of prey. Tertiary consumers, top predators, example lions, sharks, eagles. Omnivores, examples humans, bears, and pigs. Decomposers, detritivores, example bacteria, fungi, earthworms, and scavengers like vultures. Detritivores, examples millipedes, certain types of beetles, and some types of worms. Next, second question. What are the genetic banks? Genetic banks, also known as gene banks or biological repositories, or facilitate or collection that stores and preserve genetic material from living organisms such as seeds, sperms, eggs, DNA, or tissue samples. The goals of genetic banks is to conserve biological biodiversity, protect species from extinction, and ensure that genetic diversity is maintained for future use, whether for research, agriculture, or conservation efforts. There are several types of genetic banks depending on the type of material they are. The types of genetic banks are seed banks, cryo banks, DNA banks, microbial culture collections. Next, third question. State the different resources of energy. Energy resources can be broadly classified into two main categories, renewable and non-renewable resources. Here an overview of the different energy resources within these categories. Renewable resources. These are the energy sources that cannot be replenished on human time scale. Once depleted, they are gone forever, making them finite resources. Fossil fuels, coal oil, petroleum, natural gas, nuclear energy, and uranium are the examples of non-renewable energy resources. Next, come to the point of renewable resources. Renewable energy resources are replenished naturally on a human time scale and are considered sustainable because they do not deplete over time. Solar energy, wind energy, hydropower energy, or hydroelectrical energy, or tidal or wave energy, geothermal energy, biomass energy, biofuels are the examples of renewable energy resources. Next, third category is emerging and alternative energy resources. These are newer or experimental sources of energy that are still in researched and developed for a broader use. Hydrogen energy and nuclear fusion. Next, fourth question come to the difference between the renewable and non-renewable energy. Renewable energy resources and non-renewable energy resources. First difference, renewable energies, they are present in the Earth's atmosphere. Non-renewable resources are found in the underground layers of the Earth. Second difference, renewable resources energy replaced by nature in a short period. Non-renewable resources cannot be replaced by nature. Renewable third difference, renewable resources of energy, they are abundant in nature. Non-renewable resources of energy, they are scarce in nature. Fourth difference, renewable resources of energy, they do not affect the environment or caused by any negative change. Non-renewable energies resources of energy, they have a series of impact on the environment and leads to climate change. They pollute the earth and replace many pollutants in the air, water, soil, etc. It is the main cause of global warming. Fifth difference, it promotes a healthy balance in nature, whereas non-renewable energy resources, it disturbs the working of nature due to the digging of the earth to take out minerals and coal. Sixth difference, renewable energy resources is very cheap in nature, but whereas non-renewable energy resources is highly costly to procure it. Examples of renewable energy is solar energy, tidal energy, wind energy, hydropower energy, geothermal energy. Examples of non-renewable resources are crude oil, metal ore, and mineral ores. Next, what is biogas? Biogas is a type of renewable energy produced from a anaerobic digestion breakdown in the absence of oxygen of organism materials such as agriculture waste, animal manure, food scraps, and sewage. It primarily consists of methane, which is the main component responsible for its flammability and energy content, along the carbon dioxide and trace amounts of other gases. Components of biogas are methane, carbon dioxide, and trace gases. Next, list the objectives of rainwater harvesting. Rainwater harvesting refers to the collection and storage of rainwater for future use, primarily for purposes like drinking, irrigation, and other domestic or agriculture activities. The objective of rainwater harvesting are focused on the improving water availability, promoting sustainability, and addressing water scarcity. Here are the main objectives of rainwater harvesting, that are conserving water resources, enhancing water availability, reducing flooding and erosion, improving groundwater recharge, providing clean and safe drinking water, reducing water bills, sustaining agriculture, promoting sustainable water management, reducing the impact of climate change. 10th, rising environmental awareness. Next, what are the ways of rainwater harvesting? There are several methods of rainwater harvesting that can be used to collect, store, and utilize the rainwater effectively. Depending on the geographical location, purpose, and availability of the infrastructure, the methods can be ranged from simple system for individual households to more complex system for large-scale agriculture urban usage. Common methods of rainwater harvesting: rooftop rainwater harvesting, rooftop collection, surface catchment areas, ponds and reservoirs, check dams and nalas, stream harvesting, infiltration trenches, percolation pits, rainwater harvesting from roads and pavements, rainwater harvesting for agriculture, farm level systems, subsurface storage. Next question is decomposers. Decomposers are the organisms that break down dead plants, animals, and organic waste into simpler substances. They play a crucial role in the ecosystem by recycling nutrients, making them available for use by producers, plants, and maintaining the balance of the ecosystem. Without decomposers, organism matters would accumulate, and nutrients essential for plant growth would be locked up in dead matter, disrupting the flow of energy and nutrients in the ecosystem. Types of decomposers. Decomposers can be broadly categorized into two main types: microorganisms or bacteria and fungi are the examples. Next, macro decomposers, so predatory pores, earthworms, insect, millipedes, uh, crustaceans. Next, come to the point essay type question. So, write an account of rainwater and harvesting and watershed management. First point, account of rainwater harvesting. Rainwater harvesting and watershed management are two essential approaches in the sustainable management of water resources. They are both vital in addressing water scarcity, improving groundwater levels, reducing erosions, and ensuring the long-term availability of the clean water. While rainwater harvesting focuses on collecting and storing rainwater for immediate use, watershed management takes a broader approach to managing the entire water catchment area, ensuring the protection and sustainable use of water resources within it. First point, rainwater harvesting. Rainwater harvest, harvesting is the process of collecting, storing, and using rainwater for various purposes. The technique has been practiced for centuries in many parts of the world and is becoming increasingly important due to growing challenges of water scarcity, climate change, and population growth. Methods of rainwater harvesting. Route of rainwater harvesting, surface runoff harvesting, check dams and nalas or stream harvesting, uh, percolation pits and trenches. Benefits of rainwater harvesting: reduce dependence on external water resources, improves water availability, recharges groundnut, reduces soil erosion and flooding, sustainable agriculture. Next, challenges. Initial setup costs, maintenance, and water quality are the main challenges of the rainwater harvesting. Next, come to the point. Second point, watershed management. Watershed management is the process of managing the land, water, vegetation, and other natural resources within a watershed, which is the area of land where all the water that fall as a drains into a common outlet, such as a river, lake, or ocean. The goal of watershed management is to ensure that the water resources in a watershed are used sustainably while maintaining the health of ecosystem. Key components of watershed management: rainwater harvesting, forest and vegetation management, soil conservation, water quality management, flood management, community involvement, water use planning. Benefits of watershed management: sustainable water supply, ecosystem health, flood and drought mitigation, improved water quality, uh, resilience to climate changes. Challenges of watershed management: conflicting interests, land use changes, financial and technical resources. Next, to integrated approach, rainwater harvesting and watershed management. The integration of rainwater harvesting into watershed management creates a synergistic approach to water conservation and ecosystem sustainability. For example, harvested rainwater can be help recharge groundwater supplies within the watershed, reducing reliance on surface water and supporting agriculture during dry spells. Additionally, both rainwater harvesting and watershed management aims to protect water quality, mitigate the impact of climate change, and preserve natural habitats. Conclusion. Rainwater harvesting and watershed management are two essential pillars of sustainable water management. While rainwater harvesting provides a localized, efficient solution to water scarcity, watershed management takes a broader ecosystem-based approach to protect and manage water resources within a catchment area. Together, these strategies ensure that sustainable use of water resources, improve water availability, and protect the environment, making them crucial tools in addressing the global water crisis. Second question, define environmental studies and discuss its scope and importance. Environmental studies is an interdisciplinary field of study that focuses on the relationship between the human and in the environment. It examines the physical, biological, social, and economic aspects of the environment, aiming to understand environmental problems, their causes, and solutions for mitigating them. The field draws from multiple disciplines such as ecology, biology, chemistry, physics, geography, sociology, economics, and policy studies to create a comprehensive understanding of environmental issues and how they affect the human life and ecosystem. Scope of the environmental studies. The scope of environmental studies is vast and covers a wide range of topics within an emphasis on sustainability, conservation, and the management of natural resources. The primary areas of focus includes natural environment, ecology and biodiversity, climate change, pollution, human impact on the environment, pollution, growth and urbanization, resource depletion, environmental risks and awareness, environmental economics, economics impacts of environmental issues, sustainable development, green technologies and renewable energy. Next, environmental management and policy, conservation strategies, environmental legislation policies, environmental assessment and auditing, sustaining agriculture and food system, organic farming and food security, water management. Importance of environmental studies. Environmental studies are crucial for several reasons, particularly in the context of modern challenges like climate change, resource depletion, and environmental degradation. Here are some of key resources why environmental studies are important. Raising awareness and promoting education, sustainability and resource management, mitigating climate change, conservation of biodiversity, health and quality of life, building resilience communities, economic benefits, global perspective, and innovation in technology. Conclusion. Environmental studies are essential for understanding the complex interactions between humans and the natural world. With increasing environmental changes such as climate change, pollution, resources depletion, and loss of biodiversity, the need for environmental knowledge has never been more urgent. By studying environmental issues from the interdisciplinary perspective, we can develop effective strategies to mitigate environmental harms, promote sustainability, and improve the quality of life for the future generations. The scope of environmental studies is vast and diverse, encompassing everything from ecosystem dynamics and resource management to environmental policy, economics, and ethics. It is important lies in its available ability to provide solutions to some of the most pressing issues facing humanity, making it a vital field of study for sustainable and healthy planet. Third question. Write an account of spices and ecosystem diversity. Introduction to spices. Spices are aromatic plants based substances used to enhance the flavor, aroma, and preservation of food. They are derived from the wide variety of plant parts, including seeds, roots, barks, fruits, and flowers. In addition to uh, culinary uses, many spices also have medicinal properties, are used in religious rituals, and have cultural significance across different regions of the world. Some of the most popular spices include black peppers, cardamom, cinnamon, cloves, ginger, turmeric, and cumin, among the others. The cultivation and use of these spices have had a profound impact on the global trade, economy, and culture, particularly in horticultural contexts like the spice routes that connected east and west. However, the spices also integral components of the ecosystem, contributes to biodiversity and sustainability in the native habitats. Next, the role of spices in ecosystem diversity. Ecosystem diversity refers to the variety of ecosystems within a region, each with its own distinct communities of organisms, physical environments, and ecological processes. Species, particularly those that grow in tropical and subtropical regions, play a crucial role in maintaining ecosystem healthy and diversity. The cultivation of spices plant is not just about economic value. It is also involves important ecological interactions with the spices and contributes to the sustainability and resistance of the ecosystem where they thrive. Here, how spices contribute to ecosystem diversity: support for biodiversity, habitat for wildlife, pollinator support, agroforestry and sustainable farming, integration with ecosystem, reduce deforestation, soil health and carbon subsequent sequestration. Spices crops of the contribute to maintaining healthy soils, cultural and ecological synergy. Spices and threats to ecosystem diversity, deforestation, loss of indigenous species, pesticides and chemical use, climate change. Next, conservation efforts to and sustainable spices cultivation to balance the economic benefits of spice cultivation with needs of ecosystem conservation. There have been various efforts to promote sustainable practices, agroeconomic, ecological practices, certificate programs, forest protection and restoration, community involvement. Conclusion: spices are much more than culinary ingredients. There are also elements in maintaining the biodiversity and sustainability of ecosystem in many regions. The cultivation of spices, when they are done sustainably, can support biodiversity, contribute to soil health, and provide valuable ecosystem services like pollination and carbon sequence substitution. However, unsustainable farming practices, deforestation, and the overuse of chemicals pose of significant threats to the ecosystem where species are grown. To ensure the continued role of species in ecosystem diversity, it is essential to adapt to sustainable farming practices, support conservation efforts, and promote awareness of the ecological and cultural importance of species. In doing so, we can protect the environment while continuing to enjoy the economics, cultural, and culinary benefits that spices provides. Next, fourth question. Write briefly about the exhaustive conservation and biodiversity. Exhaustive conservation refers to the unstructured, sustainable, or destructive use of natural resources, which leads to the depletion or permanent loss of biodiversity and ecosystem services. Unlike sustainable conservation practices, which aim to use resources in a way that maintain ecological balance and ensures long-term availability, exhaustive conservation involves practices that overexploit resources without regard for their ability to regenerate the or maintain ecosystem health. Key features of exhaustive conservation: overexploitation of resources, destruction of habitats, pollution, biodiversity. refers to the variety and variability of life on Earth, encompasses the three main levels: genetic diversity, species diversity, ecosystem diversity. Importance of biodiversity is ecosystem services, food and medicine, cultural values. Threats to biodiversity: habitat destruction, climate change, overexploitation, pollution. Conservation of biodiversity is essential for maintaining the ecosystem health, economic well-being, and human survival. Sustainable practices such as protected areas, habitat restoration, sustainable agriculture, and climate action are critical for preventing biodiversity and ensuring its benefits for future generations. In summary, exhaustive conservation leads to the depletion of natural resources and loss of biodiversity, whereas biodiversity is the foundation of life on Earth, providing critical ecosystem services and supporting human survival. Sustainable conservation practices are the needed to protect biodiversity and ensuring the long-term health of our planet. Write in brief about the water conservation. Water conservation refers to the sustainable management and use of water resources to prevent waste, reduce water consumption, and ensure the availability of water for future generations. It involves a variety of practices aimed at using water efficiently, protecting water resources, and preserving the natural water cycle. Key aspects of water conservation: efficient water usage, domestic, agriculture, industrial, protection of water sources, pollution control, watershed management, rainwater harvesting, awareness and education. Importance of water conservation is addressing water scarcity, protecting a ecosystem, sustainable agriculture, economic benefits. In conclusion, water conservation is essential for sustaining life, supporting ecosystem, and ensuring the availability of clean water for future generations. By using water efficiently and protecting water resources, we can address global water challenges and build a more sustainable future. Explain the structure of ecosystem, classification of ecosystem. Structure of ecosystem. An ecosystem is a complex network of living organisms, biotic components, interacting with their physical environment. Abiotic components. It can vary in size from a small pond to entire forest or a ocean. The structure of ecosystem can be broken down into two main components: biotic components, living components, producers, consumers, primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers, decomposers. And abiotic components are climate, soil, water, air, minerals, and nutrients. Classification of ecosystem. Ecosystem can be classified based on different criteria such as their size, location, or dominant environmental factors. The primary classifications are terrestrial ecosystem, forest ecosystem, grassland ecosystem, desert ecosystem, tundra ecosystem, mountain ecosystem, aquatic ecosystem, marine ecosystem, freshwater ecosystem, lentic ecosystem, lotic ecosystem, wetlands, artificial ecosystem. Conclusion: the structure of an ecosystem consists of biotic and abiotic components that interact with each other in complex ways, supporting life and maintaining ecological balance. Ecosystems can be broadly classified into terrestrial, aquatic, and artificial ecosystems based on environmental conditions and geographical features. Understanding the structure and classification of ecosystem is essential for managing natural resources and conserving biodiversity. Explain about the producers and decomposers of an ecosystem. An ecosystem is a community of living organisms interacting with their physical environment. These interactions can be categorized based on the role each organism plays in the flow of energy and nutrients. Producers, consumers, and decomposers are the three main types of organisms that sustain ecosystem energy. Producers are autotrophs. Producers, also known as autotrophs, are organisms that produce their own food using energy from sunlight or, in some cases, chemical energy. They form the foundation of the food chain in any ecosystem. Producers are capable of converting energy inorganic to materials like carbon dioxide and water into organic components like glucose through photosynthesis or chemosynthesis. Photosynthesis, chemosynthesis. Examples: trees, shrubs, grasses, and aquatic plants. Algae, certain bacteria. Importance: producers are essential for energy flow in ecosystem as they capture and store solar energy, which transport through the food chain when consumed by herbivores, primary consumers, and other organs. Consumer consumers heterotrophs. Consumers are heterotrophs are organisms that cannot make their own food on depending on consuming other organisms, plants, animals, or both to obtain energy. Consumers are classified into several categories based on their diet. Primary consumers: cows, deer, elephants, and caterpillars, which are eat plants. Zooplankton that feed on phytoplankton in aquatic ecosystem. Secondary consumers: carnivores. Examples including foxes, snakes, and birds that hunt smaller herbivores. Territory consumers: top carnivore or apex predators. Examples include lions, eagles, and killer of whales, which prey on secondary consumers. Omnivores. Examples include human bears and crows. Detritivores. Examples include earthworms, crabs, and millipedes. Importance: consumers are essential in transferring energy through the food web. They regulate the population of the other species and help maintain balance within the ecosystem by controlling the plant growth and herbivore numbers. Decomposers are saprotrophs. Decomposers are also called as saprotrophs are organisms that break down dead organism materials and recycle nutrients back into the environment. They play a vital role in nutrient cycling, ensuring that essential elements like carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus are returned to the soil, water, and air to be reused by producers. Decomposers include fungi, bacteria, and certain types of invertebrates. Fungi, bacteria, invertebrates. Importance: without decomposers, dead plants, animals, and waste would accumulate, and nutrients would be not be recycled. Decomposers maintain the balance of ecosystem by ensuring that nutrients are available to producers, which are the foundation of the food chain. Summary of their roles: producers, autotrophs, capture energy from the sun or chemical sources and from the base of the food. They create organic compounds that fuel all other organisms. Consumers, heteropods, obtain energy by eating other organisms. They are classified into herbivores, primary consumers; carnivores, secondary or tertiary consumers; and omnivores. The transfer of, they transfer energy through the food chain. Decomposers, saprotrophs, break down the dead organisms matter, distilling nutrients into the ecosystem and complete the nutrient cycle. They ensure the vital elements are available to the producers. Together, producers, consumers, and decomposers form a dynamic system that support energy flow and nutrient cycling in ecosystem. This interdependence is crucial for maintaining ecological balance and sustainability in the natural world. What is ecological pyramid? Explain various types of ecological pyramids. Ecological pyramids. An ecological pyramid is a graphical representation that shows the relative amounts of energy, biomass, or numbers of organisms at each trophic level in an ecosystem. These pyramids illustrate the structure of ecosystem in terms of the flow of energy or the amount of living organism material present at different levels of the food chain. Ecological pyramids are typically divided into three main types: pyramid of numbers, pyramid of biomass, pyramid of energy. Pyramid of numbers. The pyramid of numbers represent the number of individual organisms at each trophic level in an ecosystem. In this pyramid, the number of organisms decreases as you may move from the base producers to the top territory consumers, reflecting the decreasing availability of the energy as you move the food chain. Base producers, secondary tertiary consumers. Characteristics. In a terrestrial ecosystem, the pyramids is usually upright with producer outnumbering consumers. In some ecosystems like aquatic ecosystems, the pyramid may be inverted. For example, in a ponds or lakes, there may be fewer producers such as phytoplankton than consumers zooplankton. So this still reflects the functioning of food web. Pyramid of biomasses. The pyramid of biomasses represent the total biomass, the mass of living or organ material present at each tropical level in an ecosystem. Biomass is measured in terms of weight, usually grams or kilograms or per square meter of the organism at each level. Base producers, primary customers, herbivores, secondary or tertiary consumers. Characteristics of pyramid of biomass. In a tertiary ecosystem, the biomass pyramids tends to be upright, where producers plants represent the greatest biomass. In aquatic ecosystem, the pyramids may be inverted. This happens because of the primary producers, phytoplanktons, are small in size but have a high turnover rate, while the biomass of the consumers can be much greater than in certain aquatic environment. Pyramid of energy, third one. The pyramid of energy represents the amount of energy available each trophic level in ecosystem. Energy is transferred from one trophic level to the next through feeding, but with each step, a significant amount of energy is lost, primarily as heat due to metabolic processes. Produces secondary tertiary. Next, characteristic. The pyramids of energy is always upright because energy decreases at each successive trophic level. Unlike the pyramid of numbers or biometrics energy, pyramids inverted because energy loss occurs at trophic level due to heat dissipation, digestion, and movement. Conclusion. Pyramids of number reflects the population size of organism at each tropical level, but do not account for size of energy efficiency. Pyramids of biometric indicate the total amount of living matter at each tropical level, but can sometimes be inverted in aquatic ecosystem. Pyramids of energy provides the most accurate picture of energy flow through an ecosystem and always show a decrease in energy as you move up to the trophic levels. Okay, friends. So with this, I am concluding the topic. Okay, thank you, one and all.